everybody, my name is Gloria from Gifts by Gloria, and I'm here today at the Camelot Studio where we'll be making these beautiful jewelry bags using the Sex and the City collection. You will need 2 fat quarters for the outside and 2 fat quarters for the inside. Now I'm going to open up the bag to show you what the inside of the bag looks like. The bag has 8 sectioned pockets to be used for jewelry. It could be used as a sewing tote. I made it in 2 sizes. There's a bigger size and there's a smaller size. To make the larger bag, you will need 3 templates. The first template is 14 inches in diameter. It's a circle. The second template is 10 inches in diameter. That's for the inside, for the pockets. And the third template measures 3 1/4 inches, and that's just for marking purposes, and we'll explain that later on. Now, once again, we're using the Sex and the City collection. What you'll be needing to make the bag, aside from your regular pins, your marking tools, your rotary cutters, you'll also be needing this satin cording, which is used as a drawstring to open and close the bag. Because we're going to be sewing a buttonhole, tearaway is also recommended because it provides as a stabilizer for the fabric when we sew the buttonholes for the drawstring. To complete this project, you'll need 2 fat quarters for the larger circle and 2 fat quarters for the smaller circle. The smaller circle will be used for the pockets. Now, before we begin, we need to sew buttonholes on the large circle. As you can see over here, I have one buttonhole here and 1 buttonhole here. The buttonholes are used for the drawstring of the bag, as you can see over here. So we need to funnel that through the bag. There's going to be a channel that will house the drawstring around the circumference of the circle. So when we sew our buttonhole, we're going to be using stabilizer, as you can see I have on the back, and that provides more of it makes the fabric more solid so that when you sew the buttonhole, there's no fraying. Once your buttonholes have been sewn, I use a small rotary cutter, an 18mm rotary cutter, to slice these little slits of the buttonhole open. Of course, you'll do it over a cutting mat so that you don't cut through the second layer of fabric. Once that's done, I remove the stabilizer, as we don't need this anymore. Then I'm ready to sew. I'm going to pin the 2 layers right sides together. I like to use these hair clips, because I find that I don't hurt myself. So I'm just going to pin it around the circle. And I'm going to sew all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I am not leaving an opening. Now, that sounds weird to any sewer because you're saying to yourself, how am I going to flip this inside out? But I'm going to show you after. So basically, you're going to be sewing both of these pieces around the whole circumference of the circle, not leaving an opening. So we're at our machine right now, and we're going to be sewing a 1/4 inch around the entire circumference of both of the circles. So I'm just going to get this started here. So we're sewing around. Now, once again, when I sew around this beautiful fabric, I'm going to sew until I meet my starting point. I'm only going to backstitch once I arrive back to my starting point. Once again, you can use any of Camelot's lines of fabric to make any of these beautiful jewelry bags. So I'm back to my starting point. I'm going to just quickly do a back stitch, and there we go. So as you can see, I sewed all the way around. Now I'll go on to do that with the second circle. Now this will go a little faster. I used a contrasting fabric because I just thought it would be more interesting when you open up the bag but the pockets are in a different color, so it'll be easier to find your jewelry or your sewing supplies or whatever you're using this bag for. I mean, it's multi-purpose, really. So I'm almost at the end. Just doing this a little faster, and then we're going to back stitch. So you're going to have 2 circles that are completely sewn and sealed. Okay. Now we're going to go back to our pressing station, and I'm going to explain to you what the next step is. All right, so now we have our 2 circles that were sewn, and what we're going to do is we're going to fold them in half. So we're going to start with the first one. Fold the first one in half. I'm going to give it a good press. My iron has to heat up a bit more, it seems. Okay, and then I'm going to fold it again. So it's like you're folding the circle in quarters. Now, why am I doing this? Is because I want to find the center point of my circle. As you can see, I have a crease line here and a crease line there. I'm going to do the same thing with the second one. Now, this is going to help us with cutting that little slit at the center of the circle, so that we can turn the circle right side out. So as you could see here, I have my crease here and my crease here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate the fabric like this, and I'm going to just with my scissors make a little slit, and I'm going to cut, being very careful not to cut the back side. Okay, so I'm going to do that to both the smaller circle and the larger circle, as you could see here. And you're probably saying, oh my goodness, you're cutting into that gorgeous fabric. What's going to happen? No, it's fine. You're going to turn this right side out. Both circles will be turned right side out. And I'm just using my fingers to kind of, okay? So, and then we're going to give it a good press, and I'm going to show you where we're at with the second stage. So once you have pressed both of your circles, this is what you're going to have. The slits there, the 2 buttonholes are here, and the slits there. Now it's important to remember that those buttonholes must be the lining. Now when I go to cut my circles, I want to make sure that I'm cutting on the buttonhole side, because if you don't cut on the buttonhole side, you're going to have that slit on the outside of the bag, which will be it won't look very nice. So here we have our 2 pieces. Now what we're going to do now is I'm going to repress it, because I want to make sure that I have those pressing lines, that they are very, very visible, so that when I have to place my 2 circles together, I'm able to center one circle on top of the other circle using those 2 lines. So as you could see, I'm really giving it a good press. I like steaming my iron because it works nicely. So here we have our line here and our line here. Now, I'm going to put my cut sides together. So I have the cut side here and I have the cut side here. You're not going to see this. So as I'm placing this down, I'm going to match my fold lines. My fold line, that I ironed, is over here and over here. So that's really how we center it on the pieces. I'm going to be using my pins now, as you could see, to just hold circle 1 and circle 2 together. You're going to put 1 in each quarter. So now we have our large circle and our smaller circle that are both attached to each other. Now we're ready to mark our sewing lines to make the pockets. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line it up against the first pressed line. And I'm going to use this marker that erases with iron. Isn't that amazing? The heat erases the marker. So here we go. I'm marking the 2 lines, the 2 cross lines. Now I like to use the 45-degree angle on my ruler. 1 second. Let me do it the other way. Sorry about that. I'm going to use, see the 45-degree angle? I'm lining it up with the first drawn line so that I can really get a nice 45-degree angle on my circle. So once again, here's the 45-degree angle. It's along the marked line, and then I'm going to draw my next line. I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to, where's that 45-degree angle? I'm going to once again line it up, and I'm going to draw my next sewing line. Now, what are all these lines? These lines are going to be the pockets. So I'm going to just show you by opening up this jewelry bag over here. And as you could see, I have 8 pockets. So we're going to go to the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how we're going to sew this down. All right, so now we're at the sewing machine, and we are going to sew on these actual drawn lines, directly on. I'm going to back stitch when I begin at each line. Oops, where's the back stitch? I'm going to back stitch at each line because I want to make sure that these pockets are really secure and they don't come out. So as you can see, I'm sewing directly on the sewn line. Back stitching at the beginning of the line and back stitching at the end of the line, making sure that it's really secure. So that's one line. I'm going to sew the next one. Again, don't forget to back stitch. It's okay if the stitching shows a bit past the white circle. I just love this fabric. Look how cute it is with all the little high heels and everything. So cute. So here we go again. I'm going to back stitch again. Really, you can do this project, I would say, it's beginner level. You could probably complete this in an hour and a half if you wanted to make this on your own. And then I have one more line to sew, and then I'm going to show you what we have at the end. So there we have all of our pockets. As you can see, I'm going to show you the back side of it. You can see all the stitch lines over there. But we're not finished with the pockets yet. We still have to do another step. So now, as you could see, we have the pockets, but you don't want to lose a pin all the way in this corner. So we need to make another circle. I told you we had a third template, which is 3 1/4 inches. This is really just to mark on the circle so that we can kind of close off the pocket. So as you could see, I marked my lines. I matched my lines. And again, I'm using this amazing tool. I love this tool. And then we're going to sew on this circle, back stitching at the beginning, at the end. Once we finish with this step, we've sewn all the way around the circle, back stitching, we're going to have this, but I'm going to flip it over to show you because you can't really see the stitch lines. So you could see here are my straight lines, and there is the circle that I sewed. So basically, what is that doing? That is kind of closing off the pocket. As you can see, we have our pockets here. So we're almost done. We have our 2 buttonholes. We have placed the second lining circle on for the pockets. And now we are ready to add the drawstring that is going to be fished through these 2 buttonholes. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So now we're ready to sew the channel for the drawstring. So how are we going to do that? As you can see, we have our 2 buttonholes over here. We have our buttonhole over here. You're going to sew, I eyeball it. I'm going to sew about 1/8 of an inch around the pocket lining fabric. So I'm going to sew around the whole circle 1/8 of an inch away from the pocket lining fabric. So let me show that to you, what that's going to look like. Again, I don't want to sew over the buttonhole. I'm just eyeballing it. Maybe it's 1/8 of an inch to just under 1/4 of an inch, maybe a scant 1/4 of an inch, depending on where your buttonholes are. So I like to start where the buttonhole is to make sure that I'm not sewing over the buttonhole. So I'm going around the whole circumference of the circle. I wait till my two ends join, and I'm going to back stitch when I get there. So I'm going to show you what this is going to look like. So if you look here, I'm going to show you next to the buttonhole. Where is it? You look over here. I sewed around the whole circle, just outside of the pockets, using about 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to sew the other side of the channel. I'm going to sew about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the outer circle. I'm going to sew that, and you're going to see what that looks like. Now once again, this is going to create the channel to hold the drawstring so that it doesn't get lost inside the jewelry bag. So I'm almost at the end of my circle. Again, just eyeballing it. I did not mark this, and really no one is examining this so closely with a magnifying glass to see how straight your seams are. It's perfectly fine. So as you can see, I'll show you on the back side, you see the pink thread. I have this wide, these two circles sewn all the way around the circumference of the circle, and that's going to be my channel for the drawstring. I'm going to show you how to install the drawstring, and we're going to go back to the pressing station. So once again, the cording is 72 inches. You take your 72-inch satin cording and then you cut it into 2 pieces of 36 inches each. I like to use this tool called a bodkin. Now it's not sharp, and it has a thick eye so that you can very easily thread your satin cording through the eye of the needle. So I'm going to look for that. Where is it? Here it is. I'm looking for my first buttonhole. I'm going to fish it through. As you see, I'm feeding it through the channel. Now I'm not going to bring the cording out through the second buttonhole. I want to come out through the same buttonhole that I went through. So when I started at the buttonhole, you're going to see what I mean. Just trying to make sure that it's very clear on the camera. You see, this is where I entered. I'm going to exit from the same buttonhole, as you could see. So I have the 2 raw edges here, and I'm going to tie them into a double knot. So we're going to tie 1 knot, and we're going to tie a second knot. 1 knot is fine too, but I just want to make sure it's really secure so that it doesn't go back in. So now we have, and we'll just straighten that out after. So now we have one of the drawstrings is installed. Now we're going to install the second one. Now I entered through this buttonhole. Now I'm going to enter through the second buttonhole. You have to make sure that you cut those buttonholes open. I just love this fabric. If you see the pink fabric, it has all the names of the characters from Sex in the City. There we go, we're almost at the front. And how fitting is it with this little rings on the fabric for a jewelry bag. So here we're exiting from the starting point. I'm just gonna So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to tie a double knot. Now, some people might use ribbon, but I just like the satin cording. I don't find it frays. And here we go. I'm going to pull it. Just make a few little adjustments here. And there you have your adorable, I'm just going to tie that, your adorable Sex in the City jewelry bag. I had so much fun today sewing these adorable bags with you. Join me next time when we make other beautiful projects in the Camelot Studio.